There we go. So welcome along. We're just going to wait for a few people to join us. But first of all, Mike, thank you very much for giving up some of your valuable time to join us for an hour.
Well, I couldn't think of a better place to spend my time. So, Tim, it's a joy to be with you. You too, Duncan.
Good to see you, Mike.
Thank you. And so, so guys that have jumped onto the webinar, welcome. I'm really pleased to see you here. Just so that we know everything's okay and working and all in good order, could you just sort of type into the chat that you're here, you can hear us, and maybe just put where you're joining us from, whereabouts in the UK, and if you're outside of the UK, welcome, and let us know. So that would be great. And so while people are doing that, do you know, Mike, it's Valentine's Day. Is it Valentine's Day in the US as well?
Yes, I do know. And I did get my wife a card. So this morning started out A-OK. I have a little system. I have Valentine's Day cards for the next 10 years queued up at my house. I have birthday cards because in the past I've forgotten. So I never forget anymore.
Fantastic.
That's one way of doing it.
Yeah. Amazing. So Hetty, I can see that you've raised your hand, so it's great to see you here. Are you able to type into the chat, Hetty? Just not sure if the chat's working properly. Just want to make sure before we go ahead.
Sometimes, Tim, I've noticed on the chat, at least when I've used it, you have to click on those triple dots to the right of everyone and then say enable chat. So I can see there's so many people in the audience. Yes, chat is disabled is what people are putting in the Q&A.
So there you go. Have I changed that now?
Yeah. Now invite people to post something in the chat.
There we go. Yes, technical issue. Sorry about that, guys. Can you try and post in the chat now just to let us know you're here? Here we go.
There we go.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. Technical issue. Brilliant. So Elaine, welcome, Elaine, from the Algarve. Great to see you, Elaine. I know Elaine really well from my Croissants and Coffees. Deb, Hetty, Rebecca, great to see you all. Mike, hello from New Jersey, fantastic. Eugene's in London, Caroline's in Lincoln, Lawrence from Hampshire, John, hi John from Scotland. How you doing, John? Great to see you on here. Ian Harris, my very good friend from a very fantastic company over here, just local to me, West Technology. Welcome, Ian. And Farid, welcome along. And welcome to everyone else who hasn't entered in the chat as of yet. And welcome to Jason, who's just joined us as well. Thanks, Jason, for coming along. So guys, I just think just to kick this off, let's just very, very briefly just go around the room and let's just, the four of us, just introduce ourselves really quickly. So Duncan, I'm going to go to you first.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, I'm Duncan Lloyd, and I am the co-licensee for Profit First Professionals UK with the ever cheerful Tim.
Always cheerful me, always cheerful me. And for those who don't know me, I'm Duncan's business partner, joint owner of Profit First Professionals in the UK. Obviously working as closely as we can with Mike and as often as we can. So it's great to have Mike with us. So Mike, I'm sure you need no introduction, but would you like to just quickly introduce yourself?
So I'm Mike Michalowicz. I'm checking in from New Jersey, in the United States. And I'm the author of Profit First and the co-founder of Profit First Professionals US. Proud to be partners with both you, Tim and Duncan, in building presence in the UK.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to have you with us. And Jason, last but not least, our very brand new Profit First UK guide, who is having a fantastic impact during one-to-one sessions with our Profit First members. And I'm getting some great feedback about this. Jason, would you just like to quickly introduce yourself, please?
Fantastic. Thanks, Tim. Yes, I've been with Profit First since 2019, certified just before Christmas 2019. Doing the do, as they say. Delighted to be joining Tim and Duncan as a guide within the UK setup. Great to get moving on that, get some more awareness going, give the members some increased support as well. Looking forward to what comes next.
Fantastic, and you're very welcome, Jason. We love having you on board with us. So welcome along today as well. So before we get into things, where I'm gonna ask Mike to tell us a story of his life, basically, and but starting with his business ventures, of course. Mike, you know, I say this all the time that Profit First, I'm joining Profit First Professionals, changed my life, and it comes from here when I say it. I know Duncan feels the same, and I know when we had our event for our Profit First members in Newcastle, Femke opened up the event and she got very emotional when she started sending out Profit First, changed her life as well.
Mm.
And I just wondered, how many times have you heard this, and how does that make you feel?
I've not heard it enough times, and I likely hear it multiple times a day now. So this is not selfish, so I haven't heard it enough. I don't know if I'll ever have that cup filled. It's so joyful to hear it. I remember some specific stories. One came out of Canberra in Australia, and it was a couple, this is years ago. The first time I heard a story like this, they had implemented Profit First, but what they were kind enough to share, they wrote this email together, was their marriage was compromised. You know, when you don't have financial strength, when you have financial uncertainty in your business, it brings uncertainty to your life. And once they implemented Profit First, they were able to work on their marriage. But the financial instability below it was the challenge. So it was joyful to see the ripple effects of a profitable business. You know, this isn't about getting rich. That may be a great side benefit, but it's about getting financial confidence and how much more confidence that brings. I hear from all over the world, you know, so I'm in little old New Jersey, and I hear from every corner of this planet. Iran, you know, and the U.S. and Iranian relationships aren't the best, unfortunately, but the people of Iran that I've communicated with are extraordinary entrepreneurs and humans, like just great people. And so I have communications with people, I think, because of the impact we've all had collectively on spreading the word on Profit First. I hear from people that I don't know if any of us would ever have a chance or an opportunity to work with in person. We're still having an impact. So it's just so joyful to hear it, and I'll never hear it enough.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Mike. And I think I've heard you say before that you deem Profit First is your kind of life's work. And I'm not putting words in your mouth, but am I right in saying that? So I'm sure I've heard you say that before.
Oh, exactly true. I'll show you. Maybe I've shown you before, but just for anyone watching in there, this is my office at work, and I have this sign, "Eradicate Entrepreneurial Poverty," at my home office. I have it here. I have it in my other office. It's something I wake up to and observe every day. I believe that all of us have a purpose or a calling, or whatever the term is you want to define it. It can be self-given. It could be divinely given. It's all our individual choice. And I think there's a way to find it. I think if we look back at our life's history, you're going to see elements of great emotion. Sometimes they're traumas, struggles. Other times they're celebrations or desires or thirst, but they're moments of inspiration. When we look back at our lives, we'll find that key moment or moments that become a definition for our future. And well, my story, which I know you all know, but maybe not everyone knows, I've been an entrepreneur my entire adult life. But not a good one. Not that I was a bad person. I just wasn't an effective entrepreneur. I didn't know how to manage money. I didn't know how to manage teams. I was making it up as I went along. And while my businesses were always selling more, they were never sustainably profitable. I was able to exit those businesses and decided, well, since I can't be sustainably profitable with one business, let me start many at the same time. I became an angel investor. I started 10 businesses collectively at the same time. And I was a calamity. I did not know what I was doing. And therefore these businesses didn't have a chance. Well, I spent, money after money after money. I blew all the money I had in supporting something that would have never been successful in the beginning. It was 2008. I had lost my savings, all of my savings, plus some. I went into deep debt to support these businesses that were not a good idea on my behalf. And I'll never forget, because today is the day. Today is February 14th. Today is Valentine's Day. So this is to the day. It was 2008. So 15 years ago, on February 14th, I got a call right around this time in the morning. Right now in New Jersey, it's 9 a.m. I think for you, it's around 2 p.m. But I received a call from my accountant who said, we've been going over your numbers yesterday, and we have a suggestion that you declare bankruptcy. you've no cash left and you have a tax bill you can't pay. And it was a call I never expected. But I did. Like, I never expected it emotionally, but I always expected it intellectually. I saw my money dwindling, but emotionally I wasn't ready to accept it until I got this call. Well, the choice I had was either declare bankruptcy, what they were suggesting, which protects you from creditors, or liquidate my remaining assets. I still had a home and a couple cars, get the cash there to pay my tax bill, but stick a fork in me, I'm done. So I decided that latter option was the preferred choice. I went home to my children. We celebrate Valentine's Day like a Christmas holiday. My family will gather. In this case, it's my wife, my 3 children, myself. We'll cook a big meal together. We were exchanging cards. And I came home sobbing because I was going to tell my family we were going to lose our house. We did. We lost it 30 days later. And all the things we're going to lose. And I had been lying to them up to that point by omission, by saying, everything's fine. Like we're almost there. That one big, the American optimism, one big client comes and we got it. But I had to face the reality. It wasn't going to happen. I told my daughter, she was 9 years old at the time. I told her I couldn't afford for her to go to horseback riding lessons. It was $20 US a session, negligible. And they would go as a group of children, maybe 10 of them, and do their practice routine for a half hour, an hour. And I didn't even have enough money for that. So I had to tell her, I'm sorry, but you can't go to horseback riding lessons. Her biggest passion in her life. In this moment, I can, sometimes when we're in our deepest, darkest period, you can remember second by second, instant by instant, we get that tunnel vision. And my daughter, she stood up and she ran out of the room. And I remember, I can actually feel it on me right now. I remember feeling ashamed that my daughter was so afraid of how I jeopardized our family financially that she had to run away. But I also respected, like, I want to run away. I don't want to be me. I don't want to be here. But she wasn't running away. She ran to her bedroom to grab her piggy bank, her life savings. And she ran back to me and she put on the table in front of myself and my wife and my other children. She says, Daddy, since you can't provide for our family, I'll do it. And as such an impactful moment, I was so proud of this little girl who wanted to give up her savings. She was saving to buy a horse, her dream, right? To me, because I was so incapable of running a business. Well, that moment, fast forward, has become the defining moment for why I'm doing what I'm doing. I need to fix this. And this calling it's honestly a selfish interest. I will not allow myself to experience that again. It was such a painful moment. In the same breath, I will not allow any other entrepreneur that I come in contact with, if I have the privilege of connecting with you, I will not allow you to go into entrepreneurial poverty. I know how terrifying it is. I know how it can cause this ripple effect of challenges in your life. And if we can bring financial stability to you, and I'm convinced we can through Profit First, we can bring that financial stability to you, there may be this positive ripple effect in so many other parts of your life. That's why and that's why I'm so committed to eradicating entrepreneurial poverty.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing all of that, Mike. I think we could see the part where it got a little bit emotional, which is obviously where it hits you.
Yeah.
And so the solution, obviously, we know what the solution is, but how did that then form? So obviously we had the piggy bank, and I think that might have started things whirring around, but how did Profit First actually formulate in your head to get where it is today?
So what I discovered, and everyone listening in right now, I wonder if you're similar to me. I found it extremely hard to establish a new habit around my finances, in fact, around anything. So my accountant had been telling me to read all these statements, tie these numbers in together. He told me specifically never to look at my bank account. Don't log in there. That's simply your cash position in the moment, but checks are clearing and money's being moved. It's not reflective of where your business is. You must read these statements. So while he gave me the direction of what to do, I couldn't do it. I would log into the bank account, and if I had money, I knew I could spend it. And if there was no money, I start panicking. Like that was my system. Well, I realized that in my life, it is very hard to change any habit. I discovered, though, something when it came to physical fitness, and I think there's a lot of parallels between physical and fiscal fitness. What I realized was I wanted to exercise for years regularly, but I hadn't. In my head, I've been playing mind games, thinking like, oh, I probably work out 3 or 4 times a week. When I started to measure this, reality was maybe 3 or 4 times a month I was working out. So I was playing this tomfoolery with my own mind. And I said, well, how do I set up a routine where I ensure I work out every day, including today? And what I did was I looked at my existing behavior, my natural habit, and then saw if there was an opportunity to insert what I call a behavioral intercept. So what I did was I noticed when I wake up in the morning, I would first go to the bathroom, have a cup of coffee or a spot of tea, and then I would start reading the news, and the day would start getting away from me, and I would yet again not exercise. Well, what I noticed in that routine is my routine was predictable: up, bathroom, coffee, tea. So I put my gym shoes, my sneakers, on top of the toilet seat. So every time I'd walk into the loo, the only way I can use the bathroom was by grabbing my sneakers. And that little step now had the sneakers in my hand. It was forced. I'd put them on my feet. I'd say, just walk down to the gym. Let's get this going. That was enough momentum to trigger this cascade effect. And it's been transformative. I started that process, so long ago now, and I don't miss exercise. It is an extreme rarity that I do. And I still put the shoes on top of my toilet seat. The financial equivalent was this realization that my accountant told me to look at the financial statements, but I was logging to my bank account. That was me walking into the loo. So I said, well, what can I put there? How can I put the sneakers at my bank account? Well, I decided, if I first allocate money to its intended use before spending it, then I'll know what this money is intended for. So if there is £1,000 sitting in the bank account, I know I don't have £1,000 to spend, but I used to believe that, I need that new piece of computer equipment. This is perfect. Or whatever I needed in the moment, whatever my reaction was, if there was enough to cover it in the bank account, I'd make that purchase. Not actively considering, I also have VAT taxes coming, or I need to pay payroll. I wouldn't consider that. I would just look at the moment. So Profit First was a way to set up a behavioral intercept. Money comes in, it's carved up to the separate accounts, so you know its intended use. Some is to serve for VAT, some is to serve for your own compensation to pay yourself a salary, some is reserved for the operating of the business, and so forth. Then I could continue to do what I was doing. I continue to walk in the bathroom. I continue to log into my bank accounts. I see what money is available for what purpose. And now I was restricting or controlling my cash spend based upon what was allocated. That's the essence of Profit First. And there's more to it, but foundationally, allocate money to its intended use first. And I would say one of the primary things is profit, hence the term Profit First. Allocate money toward profit, so the profit's secured. Allocate money toward VAT and the other stuff. And then you see what's truly available to operate your business, and you operate it more effectively.
And absolutely. And of course, you pay yourself first, don't you? Which is the key part for anyone running their own business, is
That's
to
right.
reward themselves, because without them, generally, especially the beginning stages, there is no business, and they have to look after themselves. Yeah.
I ran a survey, and I continue to do this, of entrepreneurs of all different types of businesses, of all different sizes. And I asked them to share with me, what's the reason or reasons you started your business? And I'd say collectively, for almost all entrepreneurs, there's only 2 reasons. Some have a couple more, but for most people, there's 2 reasons. And these are always the top ones. The first reason is I wanted to have personal freedom, meaning I want to do what I want, when I want, how I want. Control over my own life. That's what I want. Second reason is financial freedom. I don't want to worry about bills. I want to live the lifestyle as I define it, but not worry about the cost of living. So financial freedom and personal freedom. I think the great irony is the vast majority of businesses globally the business owners don't experience either. It's the reverse. We don't have personal freedom. Now we're entrapped in the business to serve our clients. They're putting demands on us that we have less freedom in our life than ever before. And then financial freedom for many entrepreneurs, for most, it's out the window. We're not making enough money. We are barely getting by. So we have this extraordinary stress of financial insufficiency and this extraordinary demand on all of our time. I think it's the great irony. The two things we dreamed for are the two things that we don't get. They've, in fact, become the nightmare. And that's what we're here to fix.
Yeah, I refer to that as being stuck in the monthly cycle, because your money is coming into your business and then it's going out just as fast as it comes in. You pay your bills, you pay your staff, and there's what's left you're paying yourself, and it's not enough. It's never enough because we never pay ourselves enough. And I was stuck in that cycle going back a few years ago before I came across Profit First, and it was stressful. I reckon I might have still had hair if this hadn't have happened. Who knows? but it was stressful, and so I've lived and breathed that stress. Yeah. And then I came across Profit First, and of course everything changed. You gain control of the money in your business by following the strategies, but also creating those habits and sticking to those habits, like you've said, relating it to the gym. And it just becomes a way of life and a way of running your business. It's totally different to what you've done before. And I found it was just so positive. And suddenly I wasn't stuck in that cycle. I was out of that cycle, and I was paying myself more money, and it relieved the pressure from the personal side of life as well. So yeah, it was massively impactful for my life as a whole, not just my business. And then what impacted even more was when I joining Profit First Professionals and taking the direction of becoming a Profit First professional, helping clients. So what I was going to ask you next was, you got to the point of Profit First, the book. What made you, or how did Profit First Professionals come about?
So it came about the first day I shared the manuscript in a draft form, and it came about within an hour. Right. I used to write for the Wall Street Journal, and I'd written an article on Profit First, I think by 2010, maybe even a little bit earlier, 2009. I written an article with the core concept. And of the articles I've written for the Wall Street Journal, this one was the most popular. Queries were coming in, questions. And that was my realization, this needs to be a book. So I wrote the book. I submitted a draft to a handful of pre-readers, people I asked for their critical feedback. What's confusing? What's wrong? What's working? Within an hour of me sending out the manuscript, I had someone email me that they had made it only through the first chapter. And they said, I need to hire an accountant that does this. Tell me the accountant I can hire. Now, I feel foolish. I didn't even think about that in advance. I was like, I don't understand what you mean. And this is, I think it's similar to if you're going to work out at the gym, if you're going to seek to improve yourself in a certain way, to have a trainer who knows to do the right exercises, who is an accountability partner, who'll push you beyond your comfort zone, is super helpful. I have a trainer. And when someone asked for the accountant, I responded and said, well, what's the reason? They said, well, I need someone who's going to show me to do this the right way, that's going to keep me accountable, and so forth. The queries started to pour in. Who's the bookkeeper that does this? Who's the coach? That's actually the three categories. I call it the A, the B, and the C: the accountant, the bookkeeper, and the coach. These are, in general, for entrepreneurs, the most trusted relationships they have. The accountant and bookkeeper has intimate knowledge of your finances, perhaps even better than you or your spouse even know it. I mean, they're so ingrained in it. And the coach understands holistically, typically what's going on with the business. So they know all the elements. These are the people that know the struggle, where the clients and everyone else and the employees probably just hear the upside and the positive stuff. These are the people that know the whole picture. And so it's these trusted relationships that I think we can trust to help us turn the tides to permanent profitability. So it was very clear from the moment I wrote that book that we needed this. Profit First Professionals was started within a few months of that draft. When the book released, the very first version, there's two versions of it, Profit First Professionals in the US already existed. And we already had I think 10 or 15 practicing members at that point, because we knew when the book hits that the demand would come in, and not only came in, it poured in, and it continues to be that way. There's disproportionately more demand from entrepreneurs seeking the assistance of a certified profit first professional than there are profit first professionals. We just to give context, in the US alone, we get around 20 inquiries directly saying, can you direct me to a profit first professional per day? And we get maybe 10 to 15% of the actual inquiries. Most inquiries are someone Googles, I need a profit first professional in my town, or someone on the subject. So most of our members get opportunities through direct inquiries. We get a small amount. So based upon that, it's somewhere between like 100, maybe 150 inquiries per day where someone's querying and seeking out a profit first professional. So we have a lot of demand for this, and it continues to grow, which is just thrilling.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what would you say? So if you've got somebody who's an accountant or a bookkeeper or coach, and they've read the book Profit First, but you've also got an accountant or bookkeeper or coach that's a certified Profit First professional, what would you say the difference is for a business owner working with one of these people? What would the benefits be working with a Profit First professional as opposed to someone who's read the book, I guess I'm trying to ask?
Yeah. So, the book, reading the book is the DIY system. It's similar. If I can make it akin to a physical fitness trainer, there's lots of books and magazines out there on exercises. And if someone's not certified as a trainer, they too can read through this and say, oh, the script says lift this one arm and do this. But what they possibly are missing is the other 99%. It's not the exercise, it's alone, the motion. It's what's appropriate for this specific person. Should they be doing calisthenics or cardiovascular exercise prior to weight? What's the balance? What's routine? Perhaps they need to learn to stretch much better because they're going to injure themselves. So Profit First, the book, is the general formula. It's not the nuanced component. Certified Profit First professionals, first of all, they show proficiency in Profit First on a holistic, collective level. They know how to implement it in the different variations for different size businesses and different stages and different struggles. Secondly, I think extremely important, they are mandated to have implemented Profit First in their own business and be audited by us, the certifying organization. Imagine a doctor, and I've actually seen this once, a doctor saying, you really shouldn't smoke. Smoking is dangerous. That same doctor is outside smoking a cigarette. If they're prescribing a medicine or a routine, I'd expect my doctor to adhere to it to understand the impact. The implementation of Profit First is not just the logical steps, it's also the emotional adaptation to it. Like, there is going to be emotion, some very strong positive stuff as you build confidence. You're going to get queasiness or fearfulness at certain stages. You need to know someone that's gone through it themselves, Profit First professional who's certified, and has guided others through it so that they have a wealth of resources to pull from. And the last thing is, Profit First is a living system. When I wrote the book originally, I think we're approaching our 10-year anniversary for it. It's a snapshot in time. I subsequently revised and expanded it about 5 years ago. It's a snapshot in time, but the system has evolved further. We found the foundational component always has remained the same, and I foresee it remaining the same. But we have found new accounts that you can set up that have a positive impact on you. We've improved some of the ratios and percentages for certain industries. We find that knowledge working industries and, for example, distribution of inventory, very different, and therefore need different deployments. So a certified Profit First professional is also current and has access to this collective knowledge of our community on how to implement Profit First fully, properly, the first time.
Absolutely, and plus location can have a say in this as well, can't it? And there are some international licensees around the world, of course, of which we are, myself and Duncan are in the UK. What do you think the benefits of having an international licensee are for the organization and for the end user, basically? Because at the end of the day, that's who we want to help in the long run, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. I mean, for the end user, it's extraordinary. If I live in the UK, I want someone who's familiar with and practiced with UK tax law, UK law. The real experience is, as we were growing initially out of the US alone, we tried to support businesses in the UK, but we don't have intimate knowledge about VAT as an example, and so many other nuanced law. And so it was a struggle. And when you, Duncan, Tim, when we partnered together, it was very clear immediately from the response of the entrepreneurial community in UK, now we have our local people. So when it comes to becoming a profit first professional, the fact that you have familiarity with the law, the regulations, the culture, which is, you can pick out, I'm an American the second I say two words. There's cultural differences, not just accents, but more. And our end clients want that familiarity and comfort of someone who gets them. So that's why it's so important to have certified profit first professionals with that knowledge to their specific to their community. And it speaks for itself. Look at the growth and demand for profit first in the UK, where it is today, since you all have been implementing this and certifying profit first professionals compared to just a few years ago when we were trying to support it from the US. It's grown radically.
Yeah, it's growing. The awareness in the UK is getting bigger and bigger every day. We're noticing it when we go to networking events, or we turn up to different events online, in person. There's always people there that know about Profit First now, whereas maybe a year ago wasn't quite so much, I would say. So I think that it's getting out there, the message is out there to people, which is really good, and it helps our members, of course, with that brand awareness. So Duncan, have you got anything you'd like to ask Mike before I go on to the next sort of stage?
I was just putting, excuse me, I'm putting a note in the chat that there are specific profit first communities in Australia, New Zealand, Austria, Germany, Canada, Netherlands. I think does that so far? I may have missed out a territory. Sorry if I have.
No, that's the collective group. You got it.
Yeah, so that's how we best serve the local community, by having, like Mike says, the knowledge of local taxes and cultures and nuances of language and so on. So just also to add that in 2 weeks' time, I'm at a conference in Dublin speaking to 100 fitness companies. I've just been writing my presentation, and I'm going to use that line, fiscal and fitness analogy. I like that, Mike. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Duncan. Jason, would you like to ask Mike any questions before we move on?
Yes, I've got plenty of questions, to be fair, but I'll go with this one, please. So one of the things that occurs to me is that we will all have experienced transformation within some of our clients. Do you have any particular stories? The marriage story at the front end of this call is clearly a deep and personal effect. In terms of what you've seen it do from a business growth perspective, for businesses that deploy it within the business, follow the system, work with the profit first professionals to create that accountability and that kind of forward-looking mindset. How do you think about that? Has that almost been like not so much an unforeseen benefit, but given the origination of the story, as it were, this is very much part and parcel of the bit that I enjoy about seeing businesses grow as a result of the deployment of Profit First? How's that sort of
I love that
in your world?
I love that question, Jason. And you've been with Profit First for so long. I know you've seen this yourself.
Yeah.
So I was shocked to find out in the beginning that businesses that have implemented Profit First, as a general rule, grow faster than their contemporaries who are not doing a Profit First system, which for me was very confusing, because the common phraseology is it takes money to get money. I need to invest every dollar into the growth of my organization. And my belief was, if you're taking profit, that means you're restricting the growth of the organization. Clearly, we're going to become more profitable, but we're going to grow at a slower rate or stop growth. But the research is the reverse has occurred. Now, to give context, we are aware, or we estimate there's over 700,000 companies doing profit first globally. We have case studies of thousands that we've queried and gotten this feedback. And consistently, they go faster than their contemporaries. And I'll give some specific stories, but let me go over the data first. What was interesting is, well, why does a business grow faster when it's taking profit first? The essence is revenue comes in, you take a percentage, allocate it to a profit. It's the pay yourself first principle applied to business. It's hidden from the business. You allocate money elsewhere, and there's less money now available to spend on the business. Well, what happens behaviorally is we find that the entrepreneur, particularly under the guidance of a certified profit first professional, becomes acutely aware we only have this spend. This is our hard budget. What are the prudent decisions to make? What are the impactful decisions to make? So they become actually much more critical of the spend. What I found is businesses that aren't running profit first, that see every dollar available to be used whimsically, however they desire, doesn't think cautiously through their planning. Actually, they don't even plan much. They just say, oh, here's the next thing and let me spend it. And it's this very hand-to-mouth survival. So profit first enforces a discipline of considering how you're going to spend the money you do have available in the most effective way. And this is the benefit of a certified profit first profession. At least from a US perspective, an accountant, a bookkeeper, those two are generally called upon on tax season. And you got to make sure the numbers are accurate. I got to comply with taxes. So it's very seasonal. There's periods where there's very spiky work and then times where there's nothing. Coaches can be a little more engaged. With profit first, what we found is for accountants and bookkeepers specifically, now there's annualized engagement. I mean, you're active year round. Now it's like, oh, let's by month, let's see how we're improving the business on profitability, how we're controlling spending, how we're amplifying demand through less money, through more acute and smart use of that money. And now they're engaged as a true partner. We consider accountants, at least in the US, to be compliance oriented. Do what's necessary to comply with the law. Profit first brings about this consulting component, which is this living, breathing experience with your client. And I'll give you one specific story because I just find the growth phenomenal or fascinating. There was a pizza shop, just like they are all over the world, in somewhere on the East Coast here, along in the US. I don't remember the city. And they had been struggling for years, hand-to-mouth survival. They implemented profit first under the direction of a certified profit first professional. One thing I want to just acknowledge that this PFP, profit first professional, did was they slowed down the rollout. I find some users of profit first, when they discover it, say, oh, I'm all in. And it's like going to the gym and over-exercising and injuring yourself and dissuading you from doing it again. So this profit first professional said, let's slow down and make sure we implement this fully and properly in small segments as opposed to rush in, which was so smart because they were able to adjust. Here's what was fascinating. This pizza shop brought in profit from day one because they were allocating a small percentage. Within a month or two, they increased the profit, which then put pressure on their active spend, and they had become critical of where they were spending money on different inventory and so forth. They sorted out their menu and discovered that this is no surprise, but 20% of their products represented almost all of their sales, and the rest was unnecessary. There was inventory they were buying and then discarding. It was just throwing money out the window. They stopped that. Sales continued to sustain, but they saved those costs, more profitability. But then, and this is my favorite part of the story, the PFP went to the restaurant and said, let's just do a walk around. And they noticed when it comes to making pizzas that there was extra dough left over. And they had some extra ingredients. Tomato sauce and some meat sauce was the most common. So they invented this concept called pizza bombs, B-O-M-B-S, pizza bombs. They take the dough, they inject a little bit of tomato sauce and some meat sauce and wrap it into some of the remaining dough, and they bake these up. And now they're pop in your mouth little snacks. So they created a whole new food category with no additional expenses, and this has become their number one item. It's exploding in demand, so much so that they may actually start packaging these and shipping them retail, freezing them and putting them at supermarkets. This all went down about 3 years ago. they've been profitable every single quarter. They've had 12 or 13 now consecutive quarters of increasing profitability for the owner. They run more efficiently than ever before. And now they're inventing a new category. And that's not an uncommon story, which is the best part. It happens with enough frequency that I recognize these stories and expect them to come now. Better growth with profit first.
That's
Love it,
amazing.
thank you.
Yeah. And I think with that, you know, I see and speak to a lot of accountants and bookkeepers, and they believe they provide advisory service, and I'm sure what they do provide is very good and worthwhile, of course. And there's no getting away. The compliance side will always be there. Statutory accounts are the statutory accounts, and they have to be filed in that way. But the advisory side, what I see is that people just offer a little bit of tax advice, how to save a little bit of money here, how to save a little bit of money there, through reducing your tax bill. And for me, it's almost a narrow-minded view, because actually, if you're making a bigger profit, yeah, you're going to have a slightly higher tax bill, potentially. Obviously, there's still clever ways to reduce that, and we are all on board with that. But you are going to have but the point first is the money's already put aside. So the money's already there for your tax bill. So it stops that short-term view of, oh, I need to keep my profits down. I don't want to, I don't want to pay too much tax. And it's kind of the anti sort of side of that. And I think what Profit First provides people or accountants and bookkeepers that want to bring advisory services in, it provides a structure, and it's a platform for people to work with and to start conversations and to build something where you are handling the money in the right way. You're gaining control of your cash, you're being more efficient with your cash. But of course, then as you have those strategy sessions and you start talking to your clients in that more detail, other conversations follow, like, what are your revenue streams? Which ones are the most profitable? How can you be more efficient here? And so, yeah, of course, there's an element of where we reduce costs, but there's other areas that we look at as well. And I think it just provides that platform for us to really help business owners in that structured way.
I have found that when you are in a consultancy mode, the natural dialogue will be the journalist questions: who, how, what, when, where. Those type of dialogues will come up. And I've also found that dialogue will happen at least monthly, but usually more frequently. When you are truly an advisor to your client, they see you as a partner, not as a vendor, as a partner. And so our own Profit First professional, and I too have hired a Profit First professional for my own guidance. There's no one who's beyond the system. It's like the saying of Tiger Woods, one historically a very elite golfer. He had a coach throughout his entire career and continues to have one, and we all need it. So I have a Profit First professional who I have a call with every 2 weeks. And the dialogue isn't like, oh, are we preparing for taxes? Sometimes that comes up at the very nearest tax season. But 99% of the conversation is, how can we improve the business? Where are there opportunities or gaps? It's the journalist questions. So I'd invite, for our friends listening in right now, if you feel your advisory, I think one measurement you can use is, are you having a bi-weekly conversation every fortnight? Is that right? Every fortnight, are you talking with your clients at least every fortnight? And having these journalist type of questions, these what ifs, or could we, or how abouts. And if that isn't happening yet, I think there's an opportunity for you to become even more advisory to your clients.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Did I use fortnight correctly? Did I nail that?
Fortnight's correct. I'm surprised you don't use that term in America.
We've bastardized. It's another form of treason from the US. There you go.
Can I just add to that, Tim? That I think one of the striking features of Profit First professionals is that each one is different. Okay, so each one takes the system but makes it their own. So you're getting the brand and the IP, but you're also really serving your community. You're speaking their language. So it's important to make the point actually that this is not a silver bullet system for accounting firms. There's work involved. You have to really understand it, apply it to your own business, embed it, and then drive it in your clients' businesses. But your firm is different to the next one.
Yeah, Duncan's 100% right. It's behind my shoulder here. I don't know if you can see, there's a little stack of white books there. Those are variants of Profit First. So we've had Profit First professionals, certified Profit First professionals, and this is available for individuals in the UK, any of our locations. You can also author a book with our permission. You have to be a certified Profit First professional, and there's an agreement and so forth. But my point is, with these books, Profit First, the original book, is the general implementation. Every industry or community that our Profit First professionals are serving has their own unique implementation. And some people have elected to codify this in a book. And so this is just a manifestation of exactly what you said. Every community, every individual business is going to have their nuanced needs. And that's what a certified Profit First professional can bring.
Yeah, so one of our fellow PFPs in America, Cindy Thompson, she wrote Profit First for e-commerce.
That's right.
So I actually, because my firm specializes in e-commerce, we buy that book and send it out to them.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And there's a great opportunity there for existing PFPs in the UK to find a book that's already been written and say, great, that's my niche now. I'm going to mirror that in the UK.
You know what's so funny, Duncan, is I've had Profit First professionals, people who are considering serving a community, come to me and say, you know what, there already is a Cindy Thomason, or there's someone in the Profit First professional community that's already serving this niche. Therefore, that industry is taken. I don't have an opportunity here. And the reality is, even the top performing businesses in the world, Profit First or not, generally when they serve a community, 1% or 2% of that community is served by them at the most. Usually it's 0.001%. It's a small thing, because imagine you have 500 clients or 600 clients, which for our average Profit First professional will be a large number. In most communities, a number of 500 or 600 represents 0.1% of that community. It's a drop in the bucket. So what our Profit First professionals do is, when they realize this, is, oh, there's partnering opportunities. What if we join forces and we say, we are the Profit First professional group? Now we collectively are teaming up against all of the individual accountants and bookkeepers in the world with a much more powerful offering and message, but we're also doing collaboratively. So I think it only empowers us. So back to Cindy Thomason, I believe there's now 8 or 9 Profit First professionals globally, specifically, that are working together. They check in once or twice a month, I think, just to say, hey, here's where we are. There's an exchange of some ideas. Sometimes there's collaboration. There's even exchange of clients. And they collectively are so known in this industry. I was at a conference speaking with Amazon sellers. That's one of those e-commerce platforms, and was talking to some people and said, and asked them just randomly, said, oh, do you have accountants and bookkeepers that you work with? They said, oh, yeah, it's, and they were referencing Profit First professional e-commerce providers specifically. They were referencing them by name, far more, disproportionately more than anybody else. Which simply points to, once you have Profit First, you have a distinguishing brand, you can even amplify that more by collaborating with other people in that same space that are Profit First professionals.
Absolutely, yeah. And then you can charge fees accordingly.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Here's the funniest thing, and this, I want everyone listening in to take this, regardless if Profit First professionals is a fit for you or not. I never want you to forget this. Your customers, your clients, want you to be wildly profitable. They want you to make money. And here's the thing. They will never say that to you. They'll never say, hey, can you charge me more? Could you jack those prices up? Of course not. But what a customer will say is, I want to be your most important client. I expect your full undivided attention. I want to be catered to. I want my success to be your biggest concern, right? That's only natural and normal. Well, the only way you can give them undivided attention, the only way you can cater to them, the only way that their challenges is your biggest concern is if you're sustainably profitable. If you're not making enough money and you're surviving check by check, you can never give your full attention to caring for a client. So what your clients are telling you is, I want this from you, therefore you must be profitable. And here's the ironic thing. If you don't necessarily trust what I'm saying, I don't suggest you try this, but you could go to your existing client of yours today and simply say, if it's true, we're not profitable and we need your business. See how they react to that, as opposed to saying, we're sustainably profitable, we'd love to work with you. The conjecture they get is different. Someone who's not profitable is desperate. Someone who is sustainably profitable is ready to serve. And so your clients want you to be serving them. You must be profitable. It is your responsibility.
I think that goes back to, when we have our members join us, one of the first steps of certification is implemented in their own business, because it's important to us that we all live and breathe profit first in our business, isn't it? Because then we come against small barriers, perhaps along the way, that we overcome, so that when our clients hit these barriers, we know exactly what they're talking about. We've been there, we've lived it, we've breathed it, and we can help them massively. Before we go on, anyone here, if you would like to ask any questions, would you please put them in the chat, and we'll ask Mike before we finish up. So please do that whilst we carry on talking. Mike, it's not just Profit First. I don't want to move away from Profit First for too long, but obviously there's lots of other strategies and books that you've produced. For me, I love the pumpkin plan. I actually was a pumpkin plan strategist for a year, but when I took over the license, I decided it was a good time to step down from there.
Smart, yeah.
Too much, but I love the strategy. And I do also understand Fix It Next and Clockwork are really good to work alongside Profit First. So do you want to just talk about those just very quickly? Is there any particular favorites of yours, or which ones do you prefer out of those?
Yeah, so Profit First is definitely the most recognized one, but every book I've written has been specifically to address a need I'm hearing from a collective of entrepreneurs. So I'm actively speaking with readers, listening to readers, and a common question is, where do you stand now? What's your biggest challenge now? And when I hear a common thread, that's the book I write. So every book I've written has been to address a concern those businesses have, but also one I've had. I feel once I've discovered something, I better be the first guinea pig. So I have the privilege of owning multiple businesses. I deploy the systems often years in advance to writing a book, and we're constantly testing things out. And the ones that work, then can get tested with other businesses. Once that works, then it can get codified into a book. So yeah, all those books are things I think entrepreneurs need. I've tested them out, and I think they're all complementary to Profit First, and Profit First is complementary to all of them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. And am I right in saying that you also wrote a Profit First for Children?
I did.
Right?
I did.
Yes.
If you can see over my shoulder right there, it's My Money Bunnies.
Yes.
So, what's interesting, and I may one day work on a book on personal finance too, is something I heard from my readers was, I wish my children knew this, or I wish there was a way for them to learn this before they age out, because schools at any level, at least in the US, do not teach financial systems for personal finance. And they surely don't teach a business how to be profitable. They teach you how to measure profitability, but not how to actually do it. So I decided to write a children's book to start serving that community, or as early as possible.
One of our members has an ambition to bring some education into schools around Profit First. So that would be interesting when that goes, and I'll keep you in touch with how that goes if that does go forward. Yeah, it's interesting to hear that, because I believe the same. The schools here are exactly the same. There's not enough education around that area. Duncan's daughter, I know Duncan won't mind me sharing, but Duncan's daughter implements Profit First in her personal life, doesn't she, Duncan?
She does, yeah. She's a university student. So I have basically transplanted the system. I use my personal finances so that she's left home with really good set of personal finance skills and the guardrails on spending, which I think it speaks to just how much the system matters. It matters to me personally, and to my clients, and my business, and my family. It's been hugely impactful.
Yeah. What's funny is Profit First is not a new concept. Like the idea of the pay yourself first principle, the idea of the envelope systems have been around in some studies BC, like thousands and thousands of years. People have been saying you must save for your future first. Tithing is a component too. So these ideas aren't new. I just think what we're doing is we're introducing it to a community that hasn't been exposed to it in a way that it's palatable and usable. So what we've done is we've repackaged it, these established, known to work principles, and applied it to business. I also see there's a direct link between our business fiscal health and our personal fiscal health. If my business is flourishing fiscally, but we're not at home, we're going to leach into the business and start crumbling the business. The reverse is true too. You may be financially strong at home, but if the business doesn't have that fiscal discipline, it's going to start to be compromised. So we definitely need the balance. I think for many entrepreneurs, we need to start with their business, because if that's struggling financially, you're going to struggle permanently. If we can bring that health to your business, then there's going to be a positive drip effect into your personal life. We can even add some new controls in your personal life.
Yeah, I too have had clients say to me that Profit First saved their marriage. I think
I love it.
You were saying it was incredible.
We're basically, the four of us here, we're marriage therapists and we didn't even know it.
Jason, you've raised your hand. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, I'd just like to add something on the back of that, actually. And I'd like to ask you, please, Mike. So within the concept of Profit First, we talk about taking that initial 1% and moving it over to profit. Could you just talk to us a little bit about, I'm going to call it the power of small changes and that accumulation piece, please?
Yeah, by all means. So what we found was there's a great book on this concept, at least in part. It's called Decisive by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. And when they wrote this book, they were looking at the established belief in the entrepreneurial community, specifically, of raising the bar. And there's terminology around this, and I'm not being disparaging toward it. It just exists. BHAG, what's your big, hairy, audacious goal, right? Big bar, the 10X factor. You got to be 10 times better than the alternatives to get noticed. So everything's been about playing big. Well, they ran research and they found that we humans make more progress by having a sequence of small wins than going after that one big goal. In fact, in many cases, that one big goal is so untouchable, it's so far out that it actually disenchants us and we don't pursue it. So it can actually have a greater counter effect than be beneficiary or beneficial. So with Profit First, what we do is we found that businesses that were going all in with Profit First and doing these large percentages to profit and so forth had the greatest failure rate because it was such an abrupt shift. A business that had never historically been profitable now is taking a 20% profit and they have to cut costs radically. And it's just too much of a shift. So we found, and you have to do this with the guidance of a certified Profit First professional, is start small and let it grow. But it's a little bit nuanced. You don't want to start so small that you don't feel the squeeze. So many businesses, we say, start at 1% of your revenue and put into profit. And after a few months, let's see where we stand. If you're not even feeling it, we can start moving this up more because you want to feel a little bit of pressure on your operating expenses and so forth. So PFP may say, let's go to 3 or 4% based on what I'm seeing. We're going to have a better profitability for this business. And we're going to start feeling a little bit of pressure on OpEx, which is going to force us to make decisions on how to manage those operating expenses. I think the best Profit First implementations, and when I say best, the ones that make the businesses the most profitable and do it sustainably into perpetuity, generally roll out Profit First over a couple of years. They start today, same with the accounts, certain percentages, but over the years, they adjust the percentages to this optimal rate, but it does take time. And then by year 2, these businesses are on a course to their highest level of profits sustainably for the rest of their business.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. And guys, I'm really sorry, but we're literally out of time. And I could continue this conversation on and on and on. And I'm sure everybody feels the same. Mike, thank you so much for joining us and giving us an hour of your time. We really appreciate it. It's great working with you. We're having a fantastic time, me and Duncan. So thank you. Duncan, Jason, thanks for coming along. And everybody that's come along, thank you so much for your input. We are reading your comments as we go, and this will be recorded and sent out to everybody as well. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for coming along, and we'll see you all very soon.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.